Hola, bienvenidos a Vox Terra. Welcome back to Vox Terra. Today, I'm going to talk about that tragedy, that tragic Texas car pileup that recently occurred. But instead of just covering this like a tragedy like most of the news is doing, I'm going to break this down into how it's not a random tragedy, but how it reflects on society. From the Associated Press, Dallas AP, a massive crash involving more than 130 vehicles on an icy Texas interstate left 6 people dead and dozens injured. Thursday, amid a winter storm that dropped freezing rain, sleet, and snow on parts of the U.S. Parts that don't normally see that kind of weather. Remember that. So let's not look at this as a random tragedy, but let's look at this as how our system, what's wrong with our system, and in what ways it's greased. Its wheels are greased by human sacrifice. Now, I'm using that term specifically because before I get into the environmental analysis, I want to just give a shout out to my conservative Christian friends who I hope are watching, or simply to religious studies friends who I hope are watching. Because in the scriptures, the Bible and the Gospels in particular, we're warned against worshiping false idols. We're told specifically in the Gospel that you cannot serve 2 masters, both God and money. Now, also, we're told in the Old Testament to take a rest on the Sabbath, and not only on the Sabbath, what's underreported is that we're also told every 7 years to let the whole land rest. In other words, take off for a year every 7 years. That's in Leviticus. Now, back to the more conventional analysis. What causes accidents? You've got road conditions, speed, weight, and safety factors. Road conditions. Instead of just looking at the road conditions, let's look at climate change. Climate change that is set in motion by the excessive burning of fossil fuels. We've had warnings for decades about this heating planet, this heating Arctic is going to throw off the weather patterns by disrupting that circulatory pull from pole to equator in terms of the jet stream, other air currents like Polar Vortex, and eventually the Gulf Stream itself. So now we are seeing winter weather conditions, severe Arctic conditions just drooping from that Arctic all the way to points farther south than they normally do. People are not prepared. And that's also related to our society. They're not prepared because they're not expecting it. So even though I've heard about these warnings for decades, I remember reading my first warning about climate change, maybe going back to 1980 or even a little earlier. We're not prepared because that's been muffled initially by paid for denial, paid for by the likes of ExxonMobil and the fossil fuel industry. Then it's taken on a life of its own and it's circulated around sympathetic media outlets, both by paid actors and people who just bought into it and want to make it their career to volunteer for this. So that's one, the climate connection. Now 2, you got speed. Speed kills. Well, Jimmy Carter, who was concerned about the environment, who put solar panels on the White House, lowered the speed limit. Then Ronald Reagan came in, took the solar panels off the White House, and raised the speed limit. He did it in conjunction with Sammy Hagar, who had his famous song, I Can't Drive 55. Well, the faster speeds we travel at, the more likely the deadliness of the impact. And then we question the rat race. What are we really rushing around for? If you think about it, COVID-19 lockdown should have sent the message loud and clear that when you shut everything down to essential services, suddenly you got cleaner air, suddenly you got less auto fatalities, and doesn't that say something? There's a problem with our system. We are busy running around largely doing things that may not be necessary, or worse. Well, let's pretend the example of a Starbucks employee. Let's pretend there was a Starbucks employee on that stretch of road rushing to get to work. Rushing to get to work to serve that morning coffee through the drive-thru so others could rush to get to work. And maybe that person rushing to get to work also in that accident, rushing to get to that Starbucks, was rushing to get to his or her job at the plastic disposable cup manufacturing facility, which is pumping our earth full of greenhouse gases, carcinogens, and endocrine disruptors, making plastic disposable cups so others can hurriedly grab their drink and then throw it out afterwards because they're in a rush. So people are rushing, serving others in a rush, polluting the planet while doing so. Now, weight. Well, how is weight of the vehicle as a societal problem? Isn't that just consumers wanting bigger vehicles? Not really that simple. We've bailed out these auto industries on a couple occasions. They've used their money then for advertising to promote the driving among people who don't really need large vehicles to drive a large vehicle. Well, once enough people make that choice to get a large vehicle who don't need a large vehicle for work, now it feels more dangerous to the people driving slower vehicles. The auto industry, the big auto manufacturers, with our taxpayer money that we bailed them out with, helped create an arms race on the roads. So now you've got slick road conditions due to climate change. Then you've got speed due to just rushing around and supporting that rat race, initially, brought on by somebody who was very bad on the environment, Ronald Reagan. And then you've got heavier cars, which were, pushed on us by the auto manufacturing industry, which we bailed out. And then lastly, you've got safety features in general. So what's one interesting thing? I heard an interview on public radio with a woman whose daughter died in a collision because her car slid beneath a truck along the side of the truck. Okay, well, some trucks, a very few, have a crash bar along the side. That prevents decapitation. Okay, so that mom is an advocate for this. Well, nobody's listening to her. Why? Well, the media is owned by large corporations, I believe, with a lot of money from advertisers. Who wants to hear a story like that? Politicians are getting their money from industry groups who don't want to hear a story like that. So in the 2016 Republican convention, the only mention I heard about auto safety was from parents whose child died in car crashes or collisions with an undocumented or illegal immigrant. So instead of talking about that simple safety fix or the speed or other problems of the road conditions, instead of looking at the system, instead of questioning how industry is destroying our planet and hurting us, instead of questioning that, they want to go after a particular group of people, take all that anger that a lot of people feel because things just don't seem right and focus it at somebody who looks different. I know they say that's not what they're doing, but I think it is. So anyway, I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please subscribe to my channel. Please click that notification bell so you know when I'm putting up a new video. Please like, please comment. Please consider supporting a PayPal or Patreon. And until next time, peace be with you.